Hello everyone, this is Vinita and welcome to Hopeful Turns. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you the pattern for this crochet poncho. Now this poncho has been made or based on a granny square pattern. It's a really simple and easy pattern. It's also a beginner level pattern. So if you are just getting started in crochet or you consider yourself as a beginner, you can definitely give this pattern a try. Now this pattern here is also completely customizable, so you can make it all the way from a child to an adult size. This has been made for a child or a baby about 1.5 to 2 year old, but as I said, you can customize it to any size. All you would require is the head circumference measurement. So based on the head circumference measurement, your neckline will be changed. So depending on the size you are making, only there will be a change in the neckline. After that, the entire pattern is the same irrespective of the size. I would be explaining how to take the measurement and what change you might have to do when you do different sizes. All right. So let's see the supplies that you would require. Now as you can see here, I have made it in 4 different color yarns. You can definitely make it in one color. You can even use variegated yarn if you want to. So here I have used 4 colors. All of this is DK weight yarn. So I have used a Stylecraft special double knit yarn. It's a DK weight yarn. You can use any weight yarn because as I said, it is going to be a customizable pattern. So you can use any weight yarn, but I would say preferably use either a DK or a worsted weight yarn. So that would be the best choices if you're using yarn. For this here, I have used a size G or 4 mm crochet hook for the entire poncho pattern. But once I finished this, I found that it is a little bit stiff. So if you're looking for a poncho which is much more drapier, which has much more flow, I would say use a hook size that is larger than the recommended. So if I have to use the same pattern to make a poncho, instead of using a 4 mm, I would use a 5 mm. So use a larger size hook than the recommended one if you want a much more flowier or drape, if you're looking for much more drape to your poncho. Apart from that, you would require a pair of scissors because I'm going to change color quite often, and also a yarn needle. So these are the few supplies that you'd require. Now if you're ready, we can get started. Now before that, a small request. If at any point in the video you like what you see, please do not forget to press on the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please do consider subscribing. Now let's start. So we'll start a pattern by making a slip knot first. So make a slip knot, and once you have your slip knot, you can start with chain stitch. Now if you are a total beginner, if you do not have a clue on the basic stitches, you can click on the link that is coming up here. It will take you through all the basic stitches involved in crochet. Okay, so here I have a chain stitch. I'm going to make I have a slip knot. I'm going to make chain stitch. Now for my size here, I'm going to make 80 chain stitch. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like this, I'm going to make a total of 80 chain stitches. Now the number of chain stitch totally depends on the size that you're making for. So for my baby here, as I said, I'm making for a 1.5 to 2 year old baby, and I have measured the head circumference. Usually it is around 18 inches, but my baby was really tiny, the head, so her head measurement came around 16 inches. So I'm going to make a chain stitch which is about 16 inches long. So whatever size that you are making for, make sure it is as long as the head circumference. So if I have to take the adult size, which is if my head circumference is 21.5 inches, so if I have to make the poncho for an adult size, I would make the chain stitch about 21.5 inches long. Now there's one more catch to it. When you're making your chain stitch, make sure that it is in multiples of 8. Okay, so that is why I'm starting with 80 chain stitch. So whatever size that you're making for, whatever head circumference you're making for, you make sure that your chain stitch is a multiple of 8. Now when I made for an adult size, if I'm going to make for an adult size with the yarn and the hook that I'm choosing, the number of chain stitch to make 21.5 inches comes around 100 chain stitch. But 100 chain stitch is not a multiple of 8, so I would either use go for 96 chain stitch or 104 chain stitch. So adjust the chain stitch and make sure it is multiple of 8. So I'll make first of all 80 chain stitch. So here I have made my 80 chain stitch. Now the next step is to slip stitch into the very first chain stitch here. So without twisting your chain stitch, go ahead and slip stitch into the very first chain stitch. So this here is my very first chain stitch. I'll go there and slip stitch. So find your first chain stitch and then slip stitch. So this will give you a loop here, and this loop here you should be able to pull it over your head, and it should fall on your neck. Now in case this will be like your rough neckline guide, so once you push it over your head onto your neck, this will be like the rough neckline guide. Now if you find that it is very close to your neck and it is like really close and you need a little bit more of a breathing space, what you can do is you can take off the slip stitch and add 8 more chains to it, 8 more chain stitches to it. So every time you want to increase your length for this loop, you can add 8 more chain stitch to it. Also do note that when you're making this one here, it will definitely go down. So when you are just putting it over your neck, this will be like the rough guide, and every time you put the rounds for the rounds, this neckline will go bit more deeper. So this will be like a rough guide. So as I said, if you find it really close, add 8 more chain stitches to it. So that completes your foundation chain stitch. We will start round 1. So round 1 here, we are starting with chain 1. This is going to act as a turning chain. For round 1, we are going to do a round of single crochets, and the single crochets will be done on the back loops. So usually we insert our hook like this between the chain stitch into the V and make a single crochet, but here we will be making it in the back loops. So make a single crochet here. So if you just turn your work, if you see like this, you have V stitches. If you just flip it over, you can see a back bumps here. So insert your hook into the back bumps and make your single crochets. So I'm just going to make a round of single crochet here, and this again will have 80 chain stitches. So what are 80 single crochet? So whatever is the chain stitches that you have done, you should have that many single crochet. All right, so I'll continue making this single crochet round and join you. So here I have completed one full round of single crochet, all worked in the back bumps. Now if you find working in the back bumps really difficult, you can make the single crochet as we do normally, like between the chain stitches also you can make the single crochet. It's just that when you make the single crochet in the back bumps, you get a much cleaner edge. So if you see here, we have a V stitch going both on the top and the bottom edge, so you'll have a very clean looking neckline. So that is why we are working in the back bumps, and I've got 80 single crochets. Now to finish off this round, I'll go into the very first single crochet here, and I'm going to slip stitch. So this will finish this round. Okay, now we'll start the next round. So this is the granny square pattern that we are going to make. So for that, I'm going to start with 3 chain stitch, 1, 2, 3. And this chain 3 here is going to be treated as a double crochet. Now what I'll do is I'll make 2 more double crochet into the same stitch. So for a double crochet, you have to yarn over first, insert your hook into that same stitch where the chain 3 goes, and pull up a loop. You have 3 loops, yarn over, pull to the first 2, yarn over, pull to the next 2. So this here is my first double crochet. I'm going to make 1 more double crochet into that same stitch. So yarn over, pull to the first 2, yarn over, pull to the next 2. Okay, so here if I'm going to treat the chain 3 as a double crochet, I have got 3 double crochet here, and the 3 double crochet here is going to be treated as one cluster. So after you make a cluster, make chain 1, okay, then you skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th stitch again make a cluster. So I'm going to skip 3 stitches, and into the 4th stitch here I'm going to make 3 double crochet. So this is 1, this is 2, and 1 more double crochet in the same stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull to the first 2, yarn over, pull to the next 2. So this completes the second cluster. After you make a cluster, you have to make chain 1. You skip 3 stitches, and into the 4th stitch again make a cluster. So this is the pattern that you have to repeat. So you make a cluster, after that you make chain 1. You will skip 3 stitches and again make a cluster. And a cluster is nothing but 3 double crochet all worked in the same stitch. Okay, so here is my next cluster. Again I'm going to make chain 1. I will skip 3 stitches, and into the 4th stitch I'll make again a cluster. And like this I'm going to make clusters till I have about 10 clusters. Alright, so the number of clusters will depend on your chain stitch. See, I have started with 80 chain stitch. Whatever is the chain stitch, you divide it by 8. So that many clusters you get. So if I have to divide 80 by 8, I have 10 cluster. If you are starting with 88 chain stitches, you divide your chain stitch number, that is 88 by 8, you should have 11 clusters. So depending on your chain stitch number, you make the clusters. So I'll make first 10 clusters, and then I'll join you and I'll show the next step. So I'll make my 10 clusters first. So here I have made 10 clusters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So whatever is your chain stitch, the starting chain stitch, you divide it by 8, and whatever number you are getting, that many clusters you have to make first. Alright. So once you are done with that, into the last cluster you will make a corner. So the very last cluster that you have made, we will turn that into a corner stitch. So for that, after you make this cluster, in order to turn it into a corner, instead of putting just one chain stitch, make 2 chain stitches this time. So 1, 2, and then make one more cluster into the same stitch here. Okay, so into the same stitch I'm going to make another cluster. So I'll put 3 more double crochet. So 1, 2, and one more I'll make 3. So here I have got another cluster. So this here is my corner. Okay, so this is my corner stitch. So I'll just show you. So if you look at the poncho here, this is the corner. So you will have 2 corner. Corner is nothing but the V-neck, the front and back. So that is what we are making here. So we have here made a corner stitch. Again you chain 1. So once this corner is made, you just have to repeat what we have made so far. So once this is done, you just make chain 1, again skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th stitch make a cluster. So we are going to repeat this until we again have 10 clusters. So after you make a corner stitch, again put 10 cluster or whatever is the number, like the chain stitch divided by 8. So that many clusters you make again. So here I have put 10 more clusters. So after doing this corner stitch, so this was my corner stitch, I have made 10 more clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Alright. Just note that between the cluster you have to put a chain 1, and each cluster is separated by 3 chain stitches. So once you make a cluster, you have to skip 3 stitches and then only you will make a cluster. Alright. So once you're done with your cluster, so I have made 10 cluster, and the last cluster I'm going to convert it into a corner stitch here. Okay, so just like we did for this corner, we are making the last 10th cluster into a corner stitch. So after you make a cluster, make 2 chain stitches this time, 1, 2, and then go back into the very same stitch and again make a cluster or put 3 double crochets. So this is one, this here is my second double crochet, and one more 3. So here I've got my 3 double crochet, and this here has become the next corner. Once you're done with this, make chain 1, and you have 3 stitches left. You skip that, and we are just going to join this. So into the third stitch. So we had started with 3 chain stitches. So on top of the third stitch, go ahead and slip stitch. So that will complete this round. Okay, so I'll just show you how it will look. So the corner stitches are the front and back. So you fold it like this, and this is how it will be. So this is how you are turning it into a V stitch, like this. So the corner stitches will be the front and back V's. So with this, we have finished off this round. Now in case you are continuing with the same color, you are making the entire poncho with the same color, you just make a slip stitch till you reach the next chain 1 space. Okay, so we have a slip stitch on the first double crochet. We have 2 more double crochet to do. So in the second double crochet you make a slip stitch. In the third double crochet also you make a slip stitch, and again make a slip stitch in the chain 1 space. So this is how you do when you are going to continue with the same color. And then you make 3 chain stitch, 1, 2, 3. And I'll just show you how to do this, but I'm just going to change my color. So I'm not going to slip stitch till I reach this space. I'll just take this off. But this is how you have to do if you are changing color. I will just slip stitch to finish off this round. Into the third chain stitch, I will go and slip stitch. And at this point, I'm going to cut my yarn off so that I can join with the new color. So I'm going to cut it here, and I'll just take it out. So this completes my first round of my granny square for the poncho pattern. I'll start with the next color. So for the next color, I'm just going to take a white color yarn. You can take any color. I'm just taking my white color, and I'll start with a slip knot, and I will attach to any one of the chain 1 space. So I have cut my yarn here. I'll just attach this here in the next chain 1 space. So I'll just attach it with a slip stitch. You can join the yarn the way you prefer. Any method is totally okay. I'm just going to slip stitch to join the new color and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. So if you have the same color, you'll also start with chain 3. And then I'm going to put 2 more double crochet into the same stitch, 1 and 2. So this cluster is done. Okay, after that I'm going to make chain 1, and then in the next chain 1 space I'm going to make another cluster. So after you make a cluster, you put a chain 1, come to the next chain 1 space, and again make a cluster. So put 3 double crochet in the chain 1 space, 1, 2 and 3. All right, again you make chain 1, come to the next chain 1 space, and again you make a cluster. So you continue this cluster till you reach the corner space. All right, so here I have reached my corner space. In all the other chain 1 spaces, I have just made a cluster. So when you reach your corner space, from here onwards in every row, whenever you reach your corner space, that is this one here, you will be making a cluster, 2 chain stitch and a cluster. So that's what we are going to do in this space here. So this was my very last cluster in the chain 1 space. After that I'm going to chain 1. I'll reach the corner space, which is here we have chain 2. So there I'm going to make a cluster. So I put 3 double crochet first, 1, 2 and 1 more, 3. Okay, so here I've made my first cluster. After that I'm going to put 2 chain stitch this time, 1, 2, and then go back in the same stitch and make 1 more cluster. So put 3 more double crochet. So in every corner space from here onwards, in every row, you will be making 2 clusters separated by chain 2 space. Okay, and then I'm going to just continue making a cluster in every chain 1 space separated by chain 1. So this corner space is done. After that make chain 1, come to your next space and make a cluster, and repeat it till you reach the next corner. So, and also don't forget to make the chain one. So once you complete a cluster, you should make a chain one and then make the next cluster. So I'll repeat this till I reach my next corner space. All right. So here I have reached my next corner space. I have put just a cluster in every chain one space, and this is my next corner space here. So I'm going to repeat the same pattern for the corner. So this was my very last cluster in the chain one space. I'll put chain one, and when you reach the corner space, you'll put two clusters separated by chain two. So we'll do that. So into this corner space, the chain two space, I'm going to make a cluster first. 1, 2 and 3. So this is one cluster. After that you have to make 2 chain stitch, 1, 2, and then go back into the same stitch and make one more cluster. So the chain 2 is only for the corner stitches. In all the other places you will put just chain 1. Okay, so this corner space is also done. So you can see I have made 2 clusters separated by 2 chain stitch. I have still one more chain space left. So this cluster is done. I'll make chain 1. I'll come to my very last chain 1 space here, and again I'll make a cluster. 1, 2 and one more, 3. All right, so this completes this cluster. After that, make a chain stitch, and we will finish off this round by slip stitching into the third chain of your chain 3. So find the third chain and you can slip stitch to join like this. So this completes this round. Now if you're continuing with the same color, slip stitch 2 times on these 2 double crochet and make one more slip stitch to reach this chain 1 space and start with chain 3. Since I'm going to change my color, I'll cut my yarn off here, and you're just going to repeat row 2 over and over again till you have the length that you're looking for. So I'll just start the next row with you. So what you do is, so if you see here, I'll just keep it like this so that you can see how it is getting formed. So basically the idea here is to make a cluster in every chain 1 space, and when you reach the corner you'll put cluster, 2 chain stitch and a cluster, and then go on repeating it. Okay, so I'll start the next row again with you. So for my next round, I'll start with a gray color. I'll start with a slip knot, and then I'll attach it to any one of the chain 1 space here. I'll attach it with a slip stitch to join the new color. So in any one of the chain space you can attach your new color. And here again we are going to start with 3 chain stitch. So from here onwards all the rows are the same. You will start with 3 chain stitch and then make 2 more double crochet to make 1 cluster. Okay, so 1 cluster is made. So chain 3 and 2 double crochet. After that make just 1 chain stitch, come to the next chain 1 space and again make a cluster, and you continue this pattern till you reach the corner space. So here I have a cluster. Once you make a cluster, that is 3 double crochet, you chain 1, and again in the chain 1 space you make a cluster. So continue this till you reach the corner space. So I'll join you when I reach my corner space. Here I have reached my corner space. In all other chain 1 spaces I had put just 1 cluster. So this was my very last stitch, or very last cluster before the corner stitch. So after this cluster, don't forget to put the chain 1 and come to the chain 2 space of the corner. And in every corner from here onwards, in every row, you have to make 2 clusters separated by 2 chain stitch. So I'll make my first cluster. Okay, so this is the corner space. So I have put 1 cluster, then make 2 chain stitch, chain 2, then go back into that same space and again make a cluster like this. 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so this completes the next corner. So you have 2 clusters separated by 2 chain stitch. So in every corner from here onwards you have to follow the same thing. After that again put a chain 1 and then continue making a cluster in every chain 1 space. So this is my next chain 1 space. Here again I'll make a cluster till I reach the next corner. Okay, so here I have put 1 cluster in every chain 1 space and I have reached the next corner space here. So before moving I'll make a chain 1 and in the corner space I'll make a cluster, 2 chain stitch and a cluster. So this is my first cluster. So I have put 3 double crochet. So 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so this is my first cluster. And then I'll make 2 chain stitch, go back into that same stitch and make another cluster. So that will complete your corner stitch. Okay. After that make chain 1. Now if you see we have 2 more chain spaces to work. So in those 2 chain spaces again you make a cluster till you reach the very first cluster of this round. So this is 1 cluster, 1, 2 and 1 more, 3. Alright, after that chain 1. Still 1 more space is left. So here again I'll make another cluster, 1, 2 and 3. Then make a chain 1. So there are no more chain 1 spaces left. We have reached the very first cluster here. So go ahead and slip stitch into the 3rd chain of your chain 3. So this is how you complete the rounds from here onwards. So you see I have completed 3 rounds. So like this you can just go ahead and continue the same pattern. Start with chain 3. In every chain 1 space make only 1 cluster, and when you reach the corner you make 2 clusters separated by 2 chain stitch. So you can go ahead and continue this pattern as long as you want. So here I have repeated the same pattern for about 12 rows and I have stopped it here. So you can continue making as many rows as you want depending on the length of the poncho that you are looking for. I have stopped it at 12 because I wanted to turn this into a dress. But as I said, just go along, continue the same row 2 pattern till you are happy with the length. If you want, you can also add a border or you can add tassels. So you can add tassels at the 2 corners or in every chain 1 space. So that's all up to you how you change or modify the pattern. But this is how you make the very basic granny poncho. So yeah, that was the tutorial how to do this poncho. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed making it. And if you have made it, please do tag me. I'll leave all my social media handle links in the description box. So that's all for today's video. See you in another video. Until then, bye-bye. Thank you for watching.